Hello everybody, hope y'all are doing good out there. Thank you for joining me for this video. In this video we are going to be taking a look at an older Case Sodbuster. Now Case has been making the full-size Sodbuster from some time in the 1960s to the best of my understanding. And the full-size Sodbuster had one major change, where I'm assuming that they changed some of the machinery that made it. And some of the things that changed was, from the best of my knowledge, the position of the nail nick moved. Any of the newer model Sodbusters, which is the only kind I have, I don't have any of the older style yet. But if you look at an older style Sodbuster, the nail nick is going to be closer to this end. Also, the tang, where the kick is down here, is not as large on the older versions. And from what I can tell, I'm not positive on this, but I do not believe that the blade is as wide from edge to spine on the older versions. Also, I believe that this little pin down in here in the back, I believe that the spring is routed differently around it, though I am not 100% positive on that either. But other than that, there haven't been any major changes to the best of my knowledge on the full-size Sodbuster from Case. Now, I've got a spread here of different Sodbusters from different models and different ages. But the one we're going to be looking at today is this particular one right here. Now, this one happens to be a 1993 model. You can see that right there. This is an interesting tang stamp, and it is an interesting era for the Case Knife Company. From what I understand, a man named Parker had bought the company, and there were certain changes that took place while he owned the company. And one of the things that happened was they went away from the dot system for a few years. I believe from 1990 to 1993, a lot of the knives had this tang stamp instead of the normal dot style tang stamp. If you look at a newer Case went back to the dot style. This is how most of the tang stamps are going to look on a Case knife. You are going to have the word Case in some kind of font, and the font will tell you the decade. And then you're going to have dots above or under, and the amount of dots will tell you the year of the knife. For instance, this one has 4 dots on the top and 4 on the bottom. That makes it a 2022 because every time they put a new tang stamp, they will put 10 dots, and every year of the decade, they remove a dot. So if you've got 8 dots, it's a 2022. If it had 1 dot, it would be a 2029. But for a little time, you got these stamps where the Case actually put the year on it, 1993, Case XX, Bradford, PA, USA. I have a few other knives with this tang stamp on it, but nevertheless, this one was made in 1993. Now, this is the full-size Sodbuster, so it is going to be the 38 pattern from Case. You can see 2138. The 2 is referring to this black delrin. The 1 to the fact that this is a single-bladed knife. And then 38 is Case's designation for their full-size Sodbuster. The Sodbuster Junior, which is the smaller version of it, is the 37 pattern. The big one's the 38. The small one is the 37. So you can see that says 2137 here. And the full size is going to say 2138. And so that's the difference. And you can see that these are basically the same knife. There are some minor differences, but basically one is just shrunk down a little bit from the other. Now, this was the first full-size Sodbuster that I had ever bought. I picked it up at a local pawn shop. Now, condition-wise, it's in excellent user condition. It's not really a collector. These delrin handled knives, they will get spots in them from people's keys and the pocket, and if you drop it, it'll leave an imprint in the delrin. The delrin is tough, but it will take imprints. You can also see there's some lines right up through here. Now, I have met somebody who said that when you see a Sodbuster, a full size like this, and when it has lines like that on the end, that's because people were using it as a bottle opener. Excuse me, I had to cut the video there for a minute. But yeah, he said that these lines on the top of these full-size SodBusters, if you ever find one with these little lines on it, he said that's caused because people use them to open bottles. He says that that's just the right size to open a bottle lid. I don't know. I've never seen anybody do that, but that is pretty interesting. And you do see a lot of these SodBusters with these particular marks on them. Now, one thing I want to say is this is Case's black delrin. Now, from what I understand, delrin is a sort of, sorry, I had to do another cut there. From what I understand, delrin was a copyright by the company DuPont, and it was this synthetic material that Case started putting on their knives. Now, according to Case's representative, Maury Ford, I've seen him talking to Smoky Mountain Knife Works and other places. He has said that the material that Case uses on their modern knives, like on this 2022 Case Sodbuster, he says that it's identical, but because they evidently are no longer buying it from DuPont, they can't use the same name, so they call it synthetic. But he said it's the exact same material, and from the best of my experience from using these knives and repairing them, restoring them, I believe he's probably right. I think it is the same material. But this is in Case's black delrin, and it develops a lot of character over the years. The other thing that's going to be interesting about these full-size SodBusters is this right here is what's known as a cutlery rivet. Now, there are some older knives like this that have what's known as a bird's eye pivot, where that they put a pin through the little hole there, and then they put a washer on each side, then they pin the pin into the washer. That's a bird's eye pivot. This right here is what's known as a cutlery rivet. It's two little rivets, kind of look like a nail. One has a male end, one has a female end, and then they hammer those together, and when they go together, they tighten up, and that is what holds your pivot together on one of these SodBuster knives. And the full-size SodBuster, as well as the SodBuster Junior, both have this same pivot, considering it's in the smooth delrin versions. The bone versions have a different style pin. But you have that, which is a signature of a SodBuster. SodBusters are usually single-bladed knives. You can see this one right here. You've got your brass back springs, your brass liners on either side of your stainless steel back spring there. The blade on this one is a stainless steel blade. You can see that right under the 2138. Now, these particular knives, Case puts what they call an as-ground finish on it. They still do that to this day. They don't highly polish it. They don't put a mirror finish on it. And you'll be able to see the grind marks, see them, on the steel. And it's almost like a satin finish. It's probably just a speck rougher than a satin finish. This is an example of Case's mirror finish. You can see that that blade is just a whole lot shinier than either one of these. Now, I have kind of polished and buffed on these, so they are shinier than they come new from the factory. But you can see how reflective this little peanut is compared to this SodBuster. And so these with the black synthetic handle have this as-ground blade, similar to a satin blade. It will hide scratches a little bit better, is the idea behind it. Also, these have this stainless SodBuster etch. It's going to have a plow, and it's going to say stainless SodBuster. Now, this one right here has this also on it, but it's very hard to see. Can you kind of make it out right there? It's very hard to get the light just right, but you can see it says SodBuster. And I'm guessing it says stainless. Yeah, you can barely see stainless. You got to get the light just right, but it does say stainless. But yeah, this is your classic blade you're going to have on one of these SodBusters. This is called a Skinner style blade, and what makes it unique is that the tip is all the way at the top of the spine. Now, one thing that does is it makes the tip stronger. Certain knives, like the Buck 110, which is a great knife, has what's called an clip point blade, and Bucks are notorious for an extremely pointy tip like this one has, and it's very easy to break that tip off. It would be a whole lot harder to break off one of these Skinner style tips, and so that's one thing that's useful about these. The other thing that's really useful about this Skinner style blade is if you're doing any kind of cuts, like if you're doing some kind of kitchen prep, if you're slicing through a tomato or whatever, because you've got so much belly, you can really do good slicing as you cut downwards. It's really good for that, and it's just a good, useful blade. Another thing is it allows the blade to be a little bit longer, because when you close the knife, the SodBuster has this curve here at the end where it comes up to a point, and you can see the blade kind of follows that same curve that you have right here, coming up with the edge, and so that allows the blade to be as long as it possibly could be. That's one thing about a Wharncliffe style blade. If you ever see a Wharncliffe blade, they have to make it shorter because it would be hitting the back spring. But this Skinner style blade allows you to have as much blade as possible. If this was a Wharncliffe blade, where the edge was totally flat, or even if it was a sheep's foot, you would have to cut this edge off right where this starts to carve up. So somewhere around right there, you'd lose that much blade edge, roughly, something like that. So the Skinner style allows you to have a very long blade. And it's pretty easy to sharpen. It's not crazy. Now you can see there is some scratches and some wear on this blade from use, but it's in really good shape overall for its age, and I got it for a good price. I've had this one a while. This was the first full-size SodBuster that I ever bought. Let's give a measurement. I should have already done this, I reckon, instead of rambling all this time, but we're not getting in any rush here. The handle itself is 4 5/8 inches closed. And then the cutting edge for the blade is about 3 1/4. Something about 3 1/4. Maybe just a speck shy of that. These have a relatively large tang in them. If you compare, for instance, the SodBuster Jr., it has a whole lot smaller tang, even when you take into consideration that it is a smaller knife. SodBuster Jr. is the one that most people carry, but they're both just great knives. And you can get them pretty affordable. You can get really any of them for $40 or less. And of course, you're getting a great warranty with Case. So let's weigh this knife now. Get my little scale over here so we can weigh it and see what it's showing. Again, this is a 1993 Case. 3.30 ounces. Now that's a lightweight for such a big knife. So let's compare that to this modern 2022 SodBuster. 3.25. So this modern one is just a little bit lighter. Now that can vary a little bit from knife to knife, and I'll tell you where I think the weight is coming in on these. If you look, this one on the right, which is the 2022, it is not as thick. The delrin is not as thick as this one here. When they were hafting it at the factory, they flattened the edges off on this particular knife. See that? It's completely flat down the side. There's not really any round to it. Now, if you look at this one here, when they hefted it, they put a little round to it. So it's more round in your hand, and it's not quite as flat. And because of the difference in the width of the delrin, I imagine that's making up that little bit of weight difference. But let me check one other SodBuster here, because I do have this yellow full-size SodBuster, and it's got the same kind of shape on the handle that our old 1993 does. So the 1993 was 3.30. The 2022 black delrin was 3.25. Let's check with this 2024 yellow delrin carbon steel SodBuster is going to be. Had some oil on the tang stamp there. 3.35. So it weighs more than our 1993 model. So that just goes to show you that where Case's knives are handmade, it is not abnormal to find differences in the way they are put together. In this one, if you look at it, you can see that it is more rounded. It's got a fatter, chubbier handle. You can really see the difference when you compare it to this this 2022. See if I can get that lined up about right. See the difference there? There's a difference. And that's what's cool about picking out your knife in the store. You can pick out the exact one you like the handle on. So then to answer the question, how has the knife changed over the years? Has it got better? Has it got worse? That is a good question. Well, looking at the handle material, the black delrin, I'd say it's identical. I don't think it's better or worse. Same thing with the pivot. It's identical. It's not better or worse. Springs and backliners, I think they're absolutely identical. What about blade steel? Well, if I'm being honest about it, I like Case's new stainless steel better than their older. To the best of my knowledge, they have never officially said that they have changed their steel, but I have noticed that a lot of the newer knives are a lot easier to sharpen, and they hold an edge a lot better than some of Case's older stainless steel. So in that way, I would give the plus to the newer SodBuster. Other than that, if we look at other things like maybe blade centering, let me get both these closed. This is our 93. You can see it's off to the pile side, and the 22 is right down the center. So again, that would go to this newer SodBuster. The blade etch is certainly better on the newer cases than the older ones. Now, of course, as you use it, the blade etch can wear off, But this one right here, if you look at it, it wasn't in there as deep as it is on these newer ones. These newer ones, they really, really put that blade etch down in there, and it's nice and dark. You can especially see that on the 2024s. Like this 2024 SodBuster Jr., that etch is just deep. So again, I would put that for the newer case. The etch is a little better. The only other thing that I can think of to talk about as in differences, you really can't tell any differences between these. They're basically the same knife. The only other thing that I've noticed, the only real difference between these two is one of these pins. From the best of my telling, this pin and this pin look basically the same size. As we already said before, these rivets look basically the same size. But down here there is a difference. On the 93 SodBuster, this pin is a little bit smaller than it is on the 23 SodBuster. Well, the blade on this knife is a 2022, but it was actually made in 2023. And I've got the box with it. It was made in 2023, but the blade's a 2022, left over from the previous year. So these knives are 30 years apart officially, 93 and 23. That makes them 30 years apart. But you can see here that these pins are a different size. And so the new one has a bigger pin, which I would figure is probably an upgrade. But yeah, that's how these two knives compare to each other, these SodBusters. The same thing is true of the 2024, the yellow handle with the carbon steel blade. It's going to have that bigger pin also, if you can see that right there. But other than that, they're basically the same knife. They're great knives. If you don't have one and you're wanting a good knife and you're willing to spend about $40 for a new one, you can get a used one for less than that. Get you one of these Case Sodbusters. Again, it's the 38 pattern. If you see some 37 patterns, they're the smaller version, the SodBuster Juniors. They're great knives. Right now on the channel, we are doing a challenge where everybody's carrying these SodBuster Juniors for a week, so that's exciting. Thank you to all you out there who watched this video, and comment down below how you feel about the SodBuster and so on. Have a good day. Keep your knives sharp.